There's been a couple times on the return road when I was getting those shots in Bradenton of the people coming out of their cars. Well, on Sunday, there's some toters and stackers leaving, and I'm low, and here I'm like, oh God,
Straight
let
up.
me go up because here comes a 25-foot trailer or semi that's coming, and they're not paying attention. They're paying attention that they don't hit this person or this car. They're not paying attention to the drone in the air. So,
Welcome to the Gearheads and Gasoline podcast, where we dive into the high-octane world of market-leading shop owners, shop employees, and automotive enthusiasts from the aftermarket, restoration, performance, and racing industries. So strap in as we take you on an awesome journey with our guests as they share their real-life stories, lessons learned, business advice, and unfiltered insights to help you beat the school of hard knocks. Gearheads and Gasoline, fueling your success.
Hello, everyone. I'm Barry Alt with Motorhead Digital, and my co-host is Annette Bauer with Annette Bauer Creative. We're excited to welcome Capri Wellesley, the owner of Adrenaline Aerial Media, to the Gearheads and Gasoline podcast.
Welcome, Capri.
thanks. Appreciate y'all having me on.
No doubt.
Thanks for
We've been waiting to have you on for quite a bit, and we're super excited to learn a bit more about what you're doing, why you're doing it, how you're doing it, all the details. So before we kind of jump into like the bigger questions, I want to really kind of ask a question that I think kind of hits all of us right now. I'm going to put this question before a normal question that we put in. So I'm going to mix up this order just a teeny bit. Is I know you've got a lot going on. So with that, so let's say like outside of your work, like your regular career job, and outside of what you're doing for your drone business, and outside of when you're in a race car, how do you recharge and how do you find inspiration for the creative work that you do?
Actually, a really awesome question. I, of course, check out some of the other videographers or photographers within the industry, sometimes looking at some of the videos or pictures outside of even the racing industry. I think trying to step back and take it all in as what I consider a new videographer and really a new photographer, and trying to see what works best, what's collaborating well, and trying to make myself a better drone pilot, videographer, and enjoying it. I think that's probably one of the biggest things is when you start making it more of a job, then you start not necessarily enjoying it as much. So I think just stepping back and being like, all right, let me still enjoy this. This is the whole reason I started doing it to begin with. I do emergency response, disaster recovery, or disaster, 3D mapping. We do, when basically we go out and we try to assess damage areas with our drones for work. And so that's something that kind of got me into all of the drone piloting, but it's something that it is something I enjoy. So it's like, oh, okay, well, it is a job, but it's something that you take a lot of pride in, and it's more relaxing even than just flying in my backyard, which is really weird to say.
It's interesting you say that because, we have a Corvette, and for a long time when we first got our Corvette, we're like, oh, let's just go drive around. And that got boring. So we joined a club and started doing that. And the same with my business. You do stuff for fun sometimes and you get into other stuff. I was building websites back a long time ago for a user group, and I go, I really like this. I could make a business out of this, which we did. So
Yeah.
I feel like that those are our famous last words, right? Like, oh, I really like it. I'm going to make a business out of this. And then we're like, get so caught up in the business part of it that we're like, this sucks. Like, this isn't fun anymore, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's
but
something I've really had to stay at the forefront of my mind. Like, hey, this is something I enjoy. Yes, I am making a job out of it or, at least some extra fun money, but I got to make sure it doesn't get to the point where I'm like, oh, I hate doing this because I don't ever want it to take away from what I enjoy doing.
Oh
a
yeah,
hundred
absolutely.
percent.
Like and to go back to flying around the backyard, that could only last so long. That was a reference I was making with just driving a car, getting connected with people, but also what you're doing is turning it into a business. You never want it to become a job. You want it to be fun. That's why
That's right.
we took and niched down into the automotive space because we knew so many people in there and we really enjoy what we do now. So I totally
Yeah.
get that. Makes sense.
It's awesome. So now we're going to kick it back to how we typically start out our podcast, and that is we're going to ask you a question that you can interpret any way that you want. So your answer is not scripted. It is not. There is not a right or a wrong answer. It really is whatever your preference is. Something really simple and fun, which is what's your favorite drink?
What is my favorite drink? Oh, honestly, I would have to say Propel. I
Okay.
don't like drinking water.
Same.
I do I do really love energy drinks, but I try to stay away from them as much as I can. And at least drinking Propel, I feel like I'm more closely drinking water, even though it has a lot of sodium in it. And nobody will ever convince me that it's bad for me. So,
No.
Propel.
That's okay. You and I are on the same page. Like, I will drink Propel over water any day. And the reality of it is that the sodium is what you need to replenish your electrolytes. And
Thank
for
you.
those of us, you included, right, who spend a lot of time out in the sun and the heat, that is an important element. So I'm all for the Propel.
I should try that sometime because my after hours drink is a little bit of bourbon and or wine. But I I was drinking soda for a long time and knew how bad it was for me. So I switched to unsweetened tea, and now I'm getting told too much caffeine in that. You got to stop drinking it. Drink water. And I'm like you. I don't care for I do, but I'd rather find something that's could be good for me that has some flavor to it or something. That's why I
Yeah,
switched to tea. So I should try that.
highly
And see, in
recommended.
the South, we don't drink unsweet tea. We drink super sweet tea that has pretty much syrup in it. Like, do you want some tea with your sugar? That's the only way to drink it, and that's bad.
Oh, when I go
Right,
to Chick-fil-A, my
exactly.
favorite restaurant, I have them cut it half and half, right? Because it's
Yeah.
just too sweet for me.
Yeah, then you definitely wouldn't survive in the South.
No,
Nope.
yeah, I think I could. I'd adjust. It's right. I'd adjust just because it's not cold down there most of the time because it's like freezing here right now. So
Yeah, I mean, you should see Capri most of the time when she travels, which is almost every Sunday. You see this girl in flip flops and whatever else, like, leggings or shorts or whatnot, because exactly the same. She's in climate where it isn't super cold all the time, even when she goes to climates that are cold and she's still wearing her flip flops.
Yeah, that backfired on me about, 3 weeks ago when I landed in the Chattanooga airport and walked outside in flip-flops and there was snow on the ground. So I had to take a picture standing in the snow in my flip-flops. It
It
was a
was
little bit
awesome.
I
rough.
remember going to San Diego once. I flew into San Diego, so we're in upstate New York, right? And flew into San Diego for a conference. Got walked out of the airport and stripped. Opened my rolly bag up and took off like 5 layers. It's like I was way overdressed.
Yeah. Yep. Easy to do. That's for sure. Okay, so let's kind of jump into learning a little bit more about Adrenaline Aerial Media, learning a little bit more about you, the business, and that kind of side of it. So let's start with some like really basic stuff, such as like, when did you officially launch your drone business?
I would say I officially launched the drone business probably about 3 months ago, maybe 4 months ago. That's when I started spending a lot of time trying to come up with a great name, something that obviously went along with the motorsports theme, obviously being in the racing world, but it had to have a title that, if I wanted to do something outside of racing, people would understand that this is aerial videography. It is drone related services. So yeah, I'd say probably about 3 or 4 months ago, and it's skyrocketed since.
The Gearheads and Gasoline podcast is proudly sponsored by Redline Synthetic Oil. With a legacy of excellence and over 100 premium products, Redline provides motor oils, gear oils, assembly lubes, fuel additives, and water wetter for the automotive, racing, motorcycle, marine, and industrial markets. Known for their exceptional quality and technical expertise, Redline is trusted by enthusiasts and professionals alike. Discover their full range of products and expert support at redlineoil.com.
That's so cool.
That's
love
awesome. You talk about coming up with a name. As somebody that works in the digital marketing industry, we don't do branding, but it's hard. And ask Annette, we probably had 50 names for this podcast alone in a doc going, what works? Nope, that one's copyrighted.
Right.
No, that one just sounds stupid.
Yeah.
What will resonate with people? So that, and I love the name of the business. You said it's taken off from there. Is it because of referrals, people or people have seen your stuff and go, wow, I need to call her?
I think it's a little bit of both. I would say, I started this out just kind of fun. I had my own personal drone, and I was trying to get some more flight hours for my emergency response team that I'm on, because we are required to have so many throughout the year. And so I started taking it to the race, and I was like, hey, let me start figuring out how to be a better pilot. Let me focus in on this car, or let me get some video shots of all the pits, or let me, go down the track with some of the vehicles. And I was like, hey, this is pretty neat. And then I've always been really interested in some of the videos, the reels and whatnot. I love doing that stuff. And seeing some of my videographer, photography friends, it's kind of inspiring to be like, man, I think I could do that. I would love to do something like that. So I started putting together some of the videos, and as I started going to some of these races, more and more of the racers saw what I was doing or asked what I was doing, and were like, hey, you mind getting some stuff for me? And, at first it was really just videoing some of the racers that I know, that I'm friends with, and sending them just short clips of like, hey, look at this shot I got. It's kind of a unique thing at this point, because there's some amazing photographers out there, and they get some awesome shots that are different all the time. You can never get the same shot, but there's not as many drone pilots that are out there getting these shots. So it's like, hey, let me just add another layer in there to give you a different perspective of your racing. And then I will say Drag Illustrated gave me the opportunity for their winter series to come fly at each of those, which, that was a huge opportunity in itself.
That's huge, yeah.
And my goal in racing was always that I wanted to get into Drag Illustrated. I had always said, I want to get in Drag Illustrated. This wasn't exactly the way I expected to, but I'm not mad about it, because it's been really cool. And to have Wes Buck actually on his Wes Buck show a couple of days ago personally thank me and appreciate what I was doing for them. I was like, wow,
that's great.
This is something that's definitely working, and I want to keep doing it and make it better. And heck, who knows where it'll take me. Now I got to do Sick Week. What was it, last week, a week and a half ago, for Sick the magazine. That opened up my eyes to an entire different racing. I've been racing for 20 years, and I'd never been to a drag and drive event. And I will tell you,
fun.
Oh, it was an incredible experience. It was the most exhausting race experience that I've had. I'm still not caught up on sleep, but it was amazing. And to think, just in this short couple of months or few months that I've been doing it, the avenues that have opened, I don't know what's going to be next. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So cool.
And Sick Week, we have a team member building the drag and drive car right now. So we're hoping to take it there someday. We got a lot, it'll be a while yet because it's pretty rough, but that's Keith's goal. But how do you, you started filming and figuring out, I consider myself kind of an amateur photographer. I know not a video guy, right? Ask Annette, she's seen some of my stuff, but how do you think, is it hard to think differently? You're just flying a drone. How do you think about the shot? When we're shooting photography, it's the background, the lighting, how
Sure.
you're framing things. How does that work with aerial photography?
That's a really good question. I'd say I'm still learning so much because, again, I wasn't a photographer. And honestly, I've had to rely on a lot of my friends, like Annette. Thank goodness for her. She has literally been such an inspiration and a helpful ear. I just have a quick question and Annette's so quick to answer and help me with something. Even if it's, hey, what do you think I should charge for something like this? I mean, she's been in the industry and she's been very successful. So I'm very appreciative to you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But I've paid attention to some of the other videographers, Straight Line Media, Kyle Christ. He's been a huge help as well. And then luckily, from going to the Winter Series races for Drag Illustrated, I actually got to fly alongside the Flow Racing drone operator. And I had my new drone, which is more for cinematography. And, he was like, look, here's some of the features that you'll want to use. Of course, I watch a million YouTube videos to see what's really working. There's a lot of different settings, just like in a camera, just like for photography. And, that took it to a different element of learning, I got to actually plug in my drone for the live streaming for Flow Racing, which, again, huge opportunity. Cool. It was so cool, but it was different from what I was doing. I was trying to get certain shots, and he's like, okay, look, you got to make sure that you realize there's a banner up top here. So you want to make sure that your picture is focused down here. Or, you want to think about don't make any sudden movements and things like that. Well, just that alone, I started using in what I was recording for some of my personal videos. And I was like, man, there's so much to learn. And I think I'm still learning. But yeah, I can change the filter on the camera on my drone. I have multiple different filters for different lighting. Of course, I can adjust the ISO and I can adjust the aperture. Again, I'm learning a lot. But I mean, thankfully my drone's smarter than me. So a lot of times I don't have to do it.
That's nice.
But I mean, that's a big part of it, right? Is I think like even for myself, right? 16 years later in photography, I am still learning. Like it's an ever evolving industry. And especially as it comes with the technology of drones, like there is so much that keeps improving. Like DJI certainly has the market on continuing to evolve that technology and the evolution of just how those drones work. And you're right, like you can use ND filters and you can use black pro mists and like there's all these other things that you can use to help with when battling direct sunlight or just helping in situations where like different filters will help you view different glass, or in our case when you're looking at plexi, how that reflects light and how you either can see through it or you can't see through it. All those different things. But you hit on something that I think is really important, especially as it applies to the drone industry, is that why it's so unique is that you can capture that perspective that no photographer is ever going to be able to get, right? And there is just something absolutely epic about an overhead shot looking straight down at somebody's car or watching that car come at you or whatever it might be that you can never get in photography. So 100%, like anytime that I can help you with any of the basic stuff, because you far exceeded me, that I will absolutely reach out and be there for you in any way that you need it. And vice versa, I know that I can count on you if that time comes where I'm like, hey, I'm really going to start exploring drone too. And how do I do this or don't do that,
Yep.
There is, but it's a never ending learning process.
I'll tell you, the partnership has been, or the partnerships that I've been working with since I started really getting into doing the videos, I will say the drone piece is awesome. Like you said, you get a completely different perspective that you don't normally get. But it's really hard to put together a full video of only those drone shots. I feel like, you're still missing some pieces. So luckily I've had, Kyle Christ has gotten me some videos of cars going down track that I'm not really going to be able to capture. I'm not going to be able to capture that sound. I'm not going to be able to capture the same exact shot. Nick Russo, he also has gotten me some B-roll videos of the cars that I'm working on. But it's been awesome as a partnership because I can say like, hey, you let me know what cars you're working with or what teams you're working with. I'm happy to get you drone videography. Yeah. And then if you can get me some of these, and that is something I've always loved about our industry is you can make not just a partnership. I mean, you make these family connections, but we're all trying to do the same thing. We're all trying to win. And luckily, I've got a lot of great people on my side that help. So I'm very thankful for all of that.
Yeah, the automotive aftermarket and racing industry, everybody that I meet, it becomes family, right? We collaborate on things. Back to the, drone shots and stuff. It's interesting. Jordan, we talked about him before we got on here. He has a drone. And he did a video for Motorhead Digital, and he said, I want you guys to stand in the back of Dean's 55 pickup truck. I have a flag that says Motorhead Digital. And he says, I'm going to hover above you, and then when I start moving up, I want you to take this flag and open it up with 3 people. And so he went away from us as we opened the flag up with my logo on it. And he went up probably 60 feet or more. And it's just cool thinking about different ways to shoot stuff and promote things. And also, like you said, use that B-roll or even combine making reels or other video where you have the aerial, the other video, and even photography mixed in with that really makes the final product better.
Barry, now that you just mentioned that, that's something I'm starting to see is taking off a little more. So Hearts Turbo is one of my annual partnerships, and what they have done is made vinyls to go on the top of the race cars now, because any race that we're at, essentially, I get the videography or the photography up in the air of these vehicles. So they're starting to put these logos on the top of the roof. So as they're either doing a burnout or, whatever it is, I'm overhead. So it's an entirely different way, say, for some of these racers to be able to say, hey, look, I'll put your logo on my roof, for whatever it is. It's just another place to add in that appeal. So it's been pretty neat. I think it's going to take off even more.
Yeah, it's a different way to market, right? It's a different way to help with branding and help those companies promote and push their product or services that nobody else can get.
Yep.
Today's podcast is sponsored by Annette Bauer Creative. At Annette Bauer Creative, we understand the power of visual storytelling in transforming brands and driving growth. From capturing the essence of your products and services to showcasing the unique solutions you offer, our professional imagery and reels help bring your brand to life. Fuel your brand and ignite your vision at AnnetteBauerCreative.com.
So we have talked a lot about how the connections have really influenced what you do and how you're learning and how you're progressing in this. But we want to also talk about some of the marketing strategies. And I know you said that you've used social media, but has there been anything very specific that you feel has been successful in maybe attracting clients or growing your, presence in this space?
I would say that's probably one thing that I don't do as well as I should. I know you and I have talked about it. How can I market this a little bit more? Mm-hmm. I think right now, most everything I've done is just social media and word of mouth. It's funny. I brought up the sick week situation, getting to fly for them. Tom Bailey sends me a message like a couple months ago and was like, hey, what would you charge to do this? And first off, I almost fell out of my chair because, I mean, I was always a Tom Bailey fan, and I'm like,
Right.
Tom Bailey just what? What? Tom Bailey just messaged me? Like,
Like, he knows my
he
name?
wants me to do video. Yeah, yeah. How'd you even hear about me? That was huge. I think, I really think that I've not dove in enough to the marketing that I really could do. Annette, like you and I talked about, actually getting with a social media coordinator or somebody that does social media marketing. I think that's huge.
Yeah.
It's such a different, I guess I would say it's such a different uh, program doing drone videography, but in reality, it's no different than doing other videography or photography. So I think I need to start partnering more with my connections and be like, hey, what's working for you? What's better? What doesn't work? And really make it so that I can continue doing this. Hey, maybe one day I won't have to really work and I can just do this and go to races full time. I mean, that's the dream,
Yeah,
right?
right. Amen. But I mean, you were right, right? Like when it comes to, and Barry and I talk about this all the time with all of our guests, is that sometimes as business owners, especially when we're new business owners, like we're so caught up in the what we know how to do, right? Like that's the actual thing. Like in your case, doing the drone pilot and getting that content, is we're so caught up in that because that's where we're comfortable, but we forget to think about like, okay, there is a business aspect of this and a business side of this that I really need to like hone in on so that this isn't just a siloed one hit wonder, right? So that you can
That's right.
expand this into something further and bigger. And that does mean that we have to look at other marketing opportunities, think outside of the box of ways that we can promote and increase that market share. But it's not always easy to figure out how to integrate the two of those.
Right. And
That's right.
one thing to think about too, right, is, racing for a good part of the country is seasonal, right? And being able to work year round is important to you as a business owner. Also thinking about, we talked about trying to do everything ourselves. And that said that I'm a big fan of a book called Who Not How. I wish I brought it 10 years ago. So look up that book.
Who, not how.
Who Not How. Yeah, it's really good as far as getting, as Americans, we try to do everything ourselves. I'm going to figure that out. I'm going to do that myself.
Yep.
It talks more about partnering with people that are experts at this, that, or the other thing, right? And that you still need help with. And sometimes you just have to do it yourself because your startup, right? Finances, dictate a lot of things. But it's a good book to read. It's got some stories in there about stuff and kind of helps you with that. And also you talk about social media because we're marketing. If you do anything, get yourself, even if it's a one-page website that just lists stuff, get a website stood up. It doesn't have to be crazy complex, but you own that more than you own the social media, right? And then there may be other opportunities that people might find you through a website versus they're not on social media. They're not in that. They're not following racing or whatever. And maybe you have an opportunity to fill in some of the slower times, I guess, with other drone type photography outside of racing, but still stay focused and spend most of your marketing efforts and stuff on the racing is what you love, right?
One of the things that, especially helps us as, and not eliminating you from this, Barry, but as females in this space is that in racing, right? Like being a female often helps us, right? Especially on the marketing side of it. We're more marketable. We can tap in a little bit on a side that guys don't generally have that access to, but it also can work against us on the flip side, right? Is that we do also have that I guess stereotype of, well, you're a girl and you really don't know. Okay. That's funny. But with that being said, when you start looking at things from right, when you start looking at things from like a service aspect, doing drone, doing photography, you can't really apply what we know works in racing as a female because it is so universal. It is so neutral, right? So finding ways to market that are outside of the box really becomes very strategic. And that in itself can be a challenge sometimes.
Yep, I think you're right. I like you said, it's not the same as me trying to go out and get a sponsor for my race car because I'm a female that does well in racing.
Right.
I mean, I'm just flying a drone. Anybody can fly the drone. I will say it's strange. It's kind of like racing, how there's not as many females yet. Even on my emergency response team, we have three other female drone pilots, and that's it.
Yeah.
We took a team picture, and there was two of us females in it, and it's like it's interesting. I've never really looked at it as, oh, I'm a female, I should get it this way or anything like that. No, I've always even said in racing, don't say, oh, you did good for a girl. No, I did good, period.
Because I'm good.
don't even put me in that category.
Right.
So yeah, you're right. It's not something that you can really utilize to say, oh yeah, I'm a female drone pilot.
Right. Right.
It doesn't work like that.
Yeah. And,
All right. Cool. So you're going to get a better shot of me, or are you going to filter it?
But what does help, though, is that you might have to take the female aspect out of it. And again, not putting influence or impact on that. But what does make the difference there is that you are a drag racer, right? So like, I will give you like backstory, and I think you know this, Barry definitely knows this. The way that I got started in photography is when I was racing, I kept looking around and saying the vanity side of me and saying, man, this would be a super cool picture, but there was never anybody there to take the picture, right? So then I picked up a camera 17 years later, here I am. But I started in it by applying what I loved about racing and what I wanted to see, what I thought would be a cool shot, what I thought would help businesses and other drivers and teams grow. And so that is one thing that you can definitely leverage that a lot of other drone pilots may not necessarily have that experience.
You're right. That's actually something that's come up just in casual conversation about me doing this. Everyone's like, well, you're a racer. Like, you know what people like to see, or you know what's great to see. And what's really awesome here recently, the last, during SIG Week and the race that I went to prior, US Street Nationals, I can get the video going over the car as they're doing a burnout. I can be out in the middle of the track as they're backing up. That's, in the middle of the track is a little bit different than what you would normally get from a side over on the wall. Or here recently been at the finish line or not even the finish line, but the return road, when they're stopping, they're getting out of their vehicle and, seeing their reaction. Sometimes I'm like, hey, can you look at the drone? I know you hear it. Can you look at it and give me that same expression? But, it's, I think just knowing when you're going to get reactions, when you're going to see something different, as far as what the race car may do, or like you said, just knowing racing or knowing drag racing in specific, some key things that is exciting, or what other people look at, or what other people are like, oh man, that would be a really cool shot. Or I would love to see that. A lot of people have said, yeah, I would love to see what my husband's reaction is whenever he gets out of the car, because, it takes another 5 minutes before we get down there after his run. So that's been really cool. Marty Stinnett in specific, I was doing a video for him a couple races ago, and I didn't even tell him. I didn't even say, hey, when you get out of the car, I need you to do something exciting, react to the drone. But he saw it, and oh my God, I've literally used him as an example for everybody. I'm like, I need you to be excited. And he gets out of the car and he goes with his arms, and then I was like, oh, that is the shot. And then he gets in the car and he gives thanks to the Lord. And I was like, man, those are things that a lot of times you don't capture because
Right.
especially if you're on the start line, guess what? I
Yeah.
got a drone. I can fly down to the finish line really fast. I can get all
Yeah.
of it. So
Yeah.
that's been
And
really cool. That's been
you're
some of my
so
favorite.
You're so right about that. So there's two sides of it, at least from the content creation side of it, is that I always approach it, especially for drivers and teams, is one thing that the driver never gets to see is the reaction of their team after they leave the starting line. They never get to
That's
see that.
right.
They're never going to see it, right? Like, God willing, that's not the plan, right?
Yes.
But but I mean, it's really cool to be able to share that with them after the fact. Likewise, down at top end, that is something that nobody at the starting line gets to see. They don't get to see what the driver, goes through when they get out of the car. They don't get to see those expressions. They don't get to see the elation or the disappointment or whatever that might be, the interaction between both drivers. There's so many
Yep.
different things, and you're right that you can capture, and those are definitely things that you can utilize when creating your marketing strategy, right? When you're creating what those
Yep.
marketing messages are going to be, is really kind of highlight and pinpoint, these are things that I can capture for you that nobody else can, right? That you don't get to see what your team does when you leave. They don't get to see what you do when you're gone, right? So like you can add those things in as marketing messages and how you're creating your strategies about, how you're going to expand your drone business.
That's smart.
Yeah, the experience that you have being a racer, but also thinking about all that stuff brings that's your expertise. You bring the value to that, the knowledge, and that's what can help sell your services to people. I had a question regarding, when we talk about photography, and I said earlier, how do you frame your shot and your settings and everything else? You have similar things like that with a drone, but you also have banners and wires and people and things that you have to pay attention to and not run into. What's your advice for that? And how do you think about that?
Very I'm glad you brought that up because that's not something that we really talk about. But there has been numerous times that I get a little heart-dropping moment because in reality, and hopefully I don't get in trouble with my FAA license, you're supposed to always have a second person watching the drone. You're supposed to have somebody that has visual line of sight to that drone, keeping an eye on so that you don't do those things. And I've had a couple of friends that, they were at the race with me or they were at the race and I was able to say, hey, make sure I don't hit that pole or that power line because thankfully, the drones have a lot of sensors on them. However, one of the things that they really don't see is power lines. And that's a lot of times can be the problem. And Barry, to your point, I'm so focused on getting that smooth and good looking shot. And I want it to be centered and I want the car to not, I don't want it to cut off half the car. So I am consistently thinking, I'm staring at my screen, but I also have to make sure that I'm either at the right altitude or that I'm in an area where I'm not going to hit something like a banner or the power lines. There's been a couple times on the return road when I was getting those shots in Bradenton of the people coming out of their cars. Well, on Sunday, there's some toters and stackers leaving and I'm low and here I'm like, oh God,
Straight
let
up.
me go up because here comes a 25-foot trailer or semi that's coming and they're not paying attention. They're paying attention that they don't hit this person or this car. They're not paying attention to the drone in the air. So it does add a whole other level of having to pay attention to your surroundings.
Yeah.
And it is nice to have somebody there to say, hey, keep an eye on this power line or something like that. Luckily, most of the locations I've gone to, I've found where all the power lines are. I found where the poles are.
Yeah.
But I've had a few scares.
Yeah.
Going through the pits in Orlando the other day, and you don't know it until it's in your camera view, but I'm going through the pits, just capturing, everybody there, and all of a sudden, guess what? There's a power line, and I'm like, and you instantly just freeze because you're like, oh, please.
Don't
Please
fry my
tell
drone.
me
Don't fry my drone.
don't knock it into the ground into a $500,000 racing operation, please, which I do have insurance for.
Right.
I
Right.
pray that nothing ever happens, but that's why I try to be a business professional, and I do have insurance in case of situations. But yeah, that's a really good point that you bring up.
Thanks. Stuff happens, right? And even when you have a spotter, you may not see something.
That's right.
Even if you walk the whole track, and stuff happens during an event where they may have to string up something to address an issue with something, or communications or whatever. You just don't know, or a vehicle that was not supposed to be there is in the wrong place. But how do you, what's your plans for future? It sounds like you want to do this full time. Do you have a kind of a timeline on that? We always, talk about future goals, 2 and 5 year goals, right? And when we talk about marketing and stuff like that.
It's tough to say. I have a career that I say in at least the corporate America world is kind of a dream job. I love my job. I sell tasers and body cameras and dash cameras and drones and digital evidence software to law enforcement. And I've been in public safety sales for a little over 12 years, and the law enforcement customers were always my favorite. So this it kind of hit that niche that I really liked. Mm-hmm. So I love my career, and it helps me pay my bills. I really started this drone piece, like I said at the beginning, as just for something fun. But then as I started to see that I could make some money, really my goal was to make enough money to get my race car back together. Because right now my motor is out of it. I really need to refreshen it. I actually bought a different motor. I bought an LS because I was going to go down the turbo avenue. Mm-hmm. And so, it's hard to say where it's going to take me. Right now,
we're waiting
couple months, it's been so busy.
We've been waiting for her to figure out what she's doing with her car so we can finish her sponsor packet.
I know. Poor Annette. She's like, do you know what you're going to do yet? Do you know what product you're even going to put on your car yet? Because here it's been a year. I've been waiting to build your sponsor packet. Yeah, Annette, I'm still not there.
I know. So that's okay. I'm here for you.
But I appreciate you. But, I've had a lot of people ask me, especially, so I flew with Flow Racing, and then at Sick Week, I got to fly with the drone pilot for Freedom Plus. And they asked me, they're like, why don't you do this full time? And I'm blessed to have a very good paying career, but I'm a salesperson in that career. And let me tell you, I'm sure y'all know, sales is one of the most stressful things in the world. If I could figure out a way to make the same money being involved in motorsports and being able to do this drone videography, that would be a huge blessing. I would love to.
Yes.
But I don't know if I've said yet, okay, this is the date that I would like to be able to step away from corporate America and do all of this. But that would be the ultimate goal for sure.
Sometimes it's just you continue to move forward, right? Right now you're paying for parts for the race car and things like that. And you get to a point where you're getting so many offers and you go, I got to make a decision. I could either stay part-time and do the ones that I can do, that I really like to do, and not do any of the other ones, or I go all in, right? But you definitely have to have, everybody says do a business plan, right? So you might, you get to that point sometime. It sounds like you got some really good deals going on working with Drag Illustrated and Sick Week. So that's a huge start at the beginning of your business. So
that's great.
We know you don't want to miss an episode, so don't forget to smash that bell so that you get notified of every new episode. Click that like button, leave us a comment, and share with your people. And visit us repeatedly. We love it.